Welcome back once again to Joliet, Montana. I've got the wagon shop here on Main Street. Many of you know that I started back in 1979 when I joined my brother-in-law, Rick Bischoff, who had the brainchild of fixing buggies and wagons back in that day. Now, very few of us ever know what will end up at the end of the journey when we take that first step. And that's kind of the deal with this wagon shop. Who would have thought that 42 years later I'd be where I'm at today? Montana had its centennial back in 1989, and the year prior to that I got inundated with fixing buggy and wagon wheels in preparation for that cattle drive. So I got to know a number of farmers and ranchers in the area that were also driving teams and wagons on the side. Well, back in those days, early 91-ish in that area, there was a movie being produced here locally, directed by Ron Howard, known as Far and Away, and it was about the Oklahoma land rush. And so because the centennial had just occurred, my name was fairly familiar with a lot of these folks that had teams and wagons. So the company there, Far and Away, they got a hold of many of them, and the name got around that I was here doing wheel work. Well, through the course of this movie, there were a lot of wrecks, so they would bring in wheels on an evening and say, I need these by morning, and we'll pick them up then, which was fine. Well, toward the end of that movie, they were shooting the land race itself, supposedly, that happened in Oklahoma, shooting it here in Montana. Well, I had the opportunity to go and drive on set with them for 3 days, so I took my team down and spent a couple days, which was a real educational time for me. Well, because of that movie, there were some wranglers that worked there that got involved with the movie later on in early 2005 and 6 when they were shooting the 310 to Yuma movie. Now, this 310 to Yuma movie, if you've watched it, and I'll put a link to the trailer on it, involved a heavy wagon that was all steel bodied that was kind of a prisoner wagon. Well, through these wranglers, word got back about I fixed wagon wheels, so they contacted me and I built the running gear for this heavy iron prison wagon. Well, there was also another coach involved in that 310 to Yuma movie that was built on the Concorde style. Partway through this movie, one of the characters in the movie is burned up in this stagecoach. Well, this burned up remnants of the stagecoach was brought up to see if I would give an estimate on what it would take to repair and restore this coach. Well, as time progressed, this coach changed hands, one wrangler to another, and then, I don't know what all happened behind the scenes, but eventually I ended up doing some horse trading on the deal and ended up owning this coach that was burned in 310 to Yuma. Well, in the meantime, I was going to the small farmers sale in Sisters, Oregon, and I met a man over there in the name of Tom Henrik. Well, Tom Henrik is also involved in the National Stagecoach and Freight Wagon Association, and we became friends as he would come over and I would fix tops and buggies for him. Well, he also acquired a Yellowstone coach, which was also built by the Abbott Downing Company in Concord, New Hampshire. So he did the body work and all the painting, but he was looking for someone to do the lettering and the striping. Well, I showed you last week a brief video of that project. Well, at the same time, I was restoring another Yellowstone coach for another friend here in Montana. And in 2015, I think it was, the National Stagecoach Association and Freight Wagon Association put on a show of Yellowstone coaches in West Yellowstone. And so we entered both Tom's coach and the coach I was working on in this display. So in 2014-15, I began my involvement with the Death Valley Conservancy, and the Borax project was beginning in its infancy stages. So in my preparations of the Borax project soon to begin, Tom, when he picked up his coach, noticed this coach that I had from the 310 to Yuma movie in the back corner of my shop. And he inquired about it if I would be interested in selling it. And he finally talked me into selling him this 310 to Yuma coach. He wanted to restore it And I knew with the borax wagon coming on that I wasn't in reality going to have time to fix it. So I sold it to Tom. Well, in the meantime, just prior to this, I had also met another family, the Strain family in western part of Montana, and they had a whole passel of kids, and most of these were boys, and they grew up on the back of a horse, kind of the western style of life. Well, one of them called me and asked if I could build the wheels or an undercarriage for a Concord coach. They were driving horses to a homemade stagecoach, and they wanted something a little more authentic. Well, I remembered this 310 coach that I had sold to Tom Henrik, and I said, well, you know, it's an outside chance, but why don't you call Tom and see what he's going to do with this coach? They did. Tom decided that maybe I should sell it. Sounds like they're a good family, they need a good project, they have a good use for it, it'll get put back together. Good for everybody all the way around. So Tom sold it to the Strain family. And if you watch on this link that I'm going to include in this video, another channel on YouTube is called eHeart Livestock. H-E-A-R-T, eHeart Livestock. Well, the Strain family picked up this 310 to Yuma coach, took it home, and began to rebuild it. Now, the reason I go through this whole rambling story is back to the beginning. We never really know where the journey is going to end up when we take our first step. And such is the case with this 310 to Yuma stagecoach. Now, I don't know who initially built this coach. Maybe somebody who is watching this video will know that part of the story that I don't know. But I know the story from the movie On. Came up to me through a wrangler, traded hands, I traded hands, I ended up owning it, it went to Washington, comes back to Montana. And the interesting thing about this coach, burned up as it is, you can see here the side frames are exposed, the side panels are gone, the right side is burned worse than the left side. Well, in order to get this fire to really go explosively for the movie, they cut a big hole in the roof so that it had a chimney to draft in, and just pretty well did the number on a fairly expensive stagecoach. Well, the Strain boys put it back together, and they come up with this idea: we need to reenact the stagecoach line era of the 1800s. So they decide to start on the Idaho-Montana border, run across the 600 some miles across Montana to the North Dakota border, just to see what it was like back in the day. And that's why I bring this whole deal back up, to encourage you to go to their channel, eHeart Livestock, on YouTube. I'll put a link to it. They presently have 6 episodes up of that journey. The first episode, which I'll link, is the kind of the pre-story of how this all puts together. And then they have 5 more episodes up of the journey and what it entails to stagecoach, just like it was back in the day, other than we have paved roads today. What was entailed. It's a really interesting story and very well documented and put together. Kudos to the videographer and to those who are putting together in storyline. There's one left to come. Maybe by the time of this video being posted, that one will be out there also. But this whole video is to encourage you to go watch that story. It's the story of a stagecoach that began in, right now, an unknown shop, went to a movie, was burnt up in the movie, literally destroyed. The undercarriage and the body came up here. I fixed the undercarriage, but there was a group of young men, boys in this family, that built this stagecoach back together and brought it back to life to where it ran across border to border, west coast to east coast, across the state of Montana. And it's a fascinating story. So if you have the time or the interest and you want to see what the coaching days is like, go look up this channel and watch the progress of this journey. It's a fascinating journey. Anyway, hope this is of interest to you. Thanks for putting up with my rambling. Check out their channel. It's a great story. And once again, thanks for watching.